Blitzer, developed by Steve Sherman and distributed as shareware by anyone who cared to do so in 1991. I got my copy of the game from the floppy disk that came with the Windows After Hours book from 1992, and the game was not only covered in its own subchapter, but was prominently featured elsewhere on the package. Someone seemed to be proud of this game, and as a kid who loved helicopters and action games, Blitzer looked to be amazing, and since it was a free game that came with a book I'd borrowed, that was even better. But the truth was to follow, and the truth was a state of disillusionment that sits with me to this day. That state begins when the game starts up, revealing an image that has haunted my nightmares ever since childhood. I genuinely don't know what this is about, but it left an impression, so I suppose it served its purpose. There's also the traditional shareware message figuratively poking you in the side until you pony up $10 for the full game, so that's a nice balance of content here already. You can read up on the game or just drop right into the action, but the former is advised since the controls aren't the most intuitively laid out and are not rebindable. Oh, and there's this short backstory about how the Earth has been overrun by a hostile alien force and the responsibility of saving the world somehow lies on your shoulders, but it's pretty irrelevant. Really, it's just a game mixing up elements of Defender, Choplifter, and Scramble, and that's all you need to know. Actually, there's one other thing you need to know, and that is that any of those games is a far superior experience to the mishmash of clunky arcade weirdness that Blitzer provides. But before I flagrantly rant about why, allow me to calmly rant about why. The goal is to shoot anything that moves, unless that moving thing is a stick figure. These stick figures are scientists that need to be rescued because they're terrible at directions and have gotten themselves stranded in the most aggravating locations imaginable. This includes above-ground canyons and underground caverns that have to be blown open using your weapons to gain access to. Just use the arrow keys to bungle around the cumbersome landscape, shooting awkwardly at aesthetically questionable alien ships otherwise. You can kind of shoot straight and kind of shoot down and at an angle. You can kind of drop bombs from the nose of your chopper, and you can definitely ignite a neutron bomb to destroy everything on screen. Of course, you only get 2 screen-clearing things, so the rest of the time you're either exploring new depths of the phrase awkward controls, or you're cursing your aircraft for being so useless at maneuvering around this chunky representation of Earth. And being that this is an unforgiving arcade-style game, anything you do depletes resources, so your fuel, photons, shields, bombs, and patience are all draining at an incredibly rapid rate the longer you play. While you can return back to a home base to restock your junk, doing so is more of a challenge than you can possibly imagine. Blitzer's problem is that it's just not very playable. The way your chopper moves, the way the enemies move, the placement of the scientists, the tiny little bullets and bombs, the blocky landscape that's irritating to shoot through, and the fact that the screen doesn't move until you're right up against the edge. There's also the copious clipping of sprites and other graphical weirdness in the game, which makes things even more bizarre to play. And you might see a warning message about playing in normal VGA mode instead of Video 7, but it makes no difference on any of the hardware I've played this on over the past 22 years. The more I look at it, holy crap, this game is lacking. There's no sound effects, no music, no useful feedback when you shoot stuff. The aiming is absurd, the color palette is strange, just nothing feels right at all. And come on, what does this have to do with Wolf Blitzer? Sure, there's a situation going on in this room as I play this game, but it's one of downright perplexity. Although, you know what? As unplayable as this is, it's retained a strange and vivid place in my memory ever since I first got it running all those years ago. I'll never forget this bizarre trip of a shoot-'em-up because it's just so off. Nothing about it feels cohesive, adequate, or even very comfortable. Much like that initial startup image, Blitzer leaves me unsettled and feeling unsure about why I'm even doing this with my time. And I guess maybe there's some twisted value to that? I don't know, and I don't think it matters, but I do appreciate when a game leaves a mark on my psyche, and for better or for worse, this shareware shooter is one of them, and that's why I've chosen to immortalize it here on LGR. And if you'd like some more bizarre shareware games and some other stuff from my childhood and beyond, then why not check out some of my other videos? I do more of them every week. I've been doing so for coming up on 5 years. That's a lot of videos. Subscribing is appreciated as well as being useful to you, as is checking me out on Twitter and Facebook and Patreon. and occasionally ranting at CNN's The Situation Room, wondering why there aren't more helicopters clipping through alien ships on a blocky landscape. And as always, thank you for watching.